Established Rich coming right back at you. Today, I want to talk about something that really made me just stop and think. Not because it was new, but because it reminded me of how long memory really is. This whole Jim Jones, Camron, damedash situation is not about a video. It's about a pattern that never got addressed. And when patterns don't get addressed, they come back louder. I was talking to Mo the other day, and I said something real simple. I said, yo, looking back, this all makes sense now. Not in a gotcha way, in a real life way. Because when you look at how somebody moves long enough, you stop being surprised by the outcome. Now, let me say this clear so nobody misunderstands me. I am glad that damedash and Jim Jones did not fight. I don't want to see two black men fighting in the street. That's not what this is about. But here's the other side people don't want to talk about. You cannot build a whole persona around being tough and then move different when it's time to stand. That's what a disconnect is. And that's why this old clip still matters today, because it exposes a gap between talk and behavior. And people notice that.
Yeah, they do. You know, fool, you never did nothing. They do. That's right. You're entertainment. They the gangbangers. No, you soft, gang. You soft. You soft. Can you get the soft? You get the same 1989. You get the film. You ain't never had me up. I ain't never been. No. Cigarette. Give me the glass. Move, Chrissy. Chrissy, move. Chrissy.
Come on, y'all. Baby, please, you can't let this happen. You can't let this happen. You can't let this happen. You can't. No.
We ain't doing that. Let's not do it. If we doing it, let's get it over. I ain't got all day.
Exactly. We're not.
Let me do what I need to do.
We're not doing it.
I ain't got all day for this. I'm gonna take a beat down. Let me take it. I'm gonna look good while I get it. Let's go. Let's go. I'm ready. I'm right here. I ain't going nowhere till y'all know. Get off my block then. You can't do nothing. Get off my block then. I can do. You can't do nothing.
Well, Jay, I'ma still be chilling. You know what I'm saying?
That's the hustle spirit.
But that was old with him and what's the name? There's no beef, right? Yeah.
I mean, you know, put it like this. When that happened, you know, we all had it on tape a long time ago, but collectively, it just seemed embarrassing for Harlem. And, you know, for me, family, if we truly are family, should be kept, you know, families fight, but the rest of the world don't need to see that. Mm-hmm. You know, I didn't think, you know, it didn't look like it went in his favor in that moment, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, I just felt real disrespected that he had brought some people down to even think about doing something to me. And my girl was out there, his girl was out there. But it was like some fights you just don't even be proud of. It's like being your child. So you don't be like, yo, I just spanked my kid. And I'm not saying my child, but you know, I know him young, and it's like to see that version of him is a lot different. Like I said, his name was Jomo before Jim Jones. He became Jim Jones, but I know Jomo. So I'm not saying that's soft or whatever, but I know that version could not beat me. You know what I'm saying? And you know, or at least I had to see. But either way, you know, as a man, somebody comes to your establishment, it'd be like someone coming in here. It was the reason why when I had a barbershop, I would feel any kind of violation in the barbershop was a violation to me. Like, you know, this is my spot, you got to take that up. And if you did something like rob somebody in my spot, now I got to come see you. And that type of stuff would happen. So I'm like, man, I get in so much trouble when I'm outside because I feel like I'd rather go out on my shield and get beat up. I have to get beat up before, especially if it ain't no guns or nothing, before I'm gonna just let somebody straight disrespect me. Or like if somebody goes stick them up, pause like that, I gotta see the gun. You know what I'm saying? Like show me the gun. You know, I'll give it to you, but just show me.
I'm gonna give it to you.
But just show me a gun. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm gonna give you.
Don't bluff me.
But what he said, nigga, it was in his establishment. Cause that just like somebody come to your house.
Well, you know, it was a misunderstanding between Chrissy and my girl about Vampire, Lady Vampire, and you know, it was something that happened the way they spoke to each other. But Chrissy came down first, and we had resolved it because I know Chrissy. You know, I've known her for years, way before Jim. And you know, then he pulled up because he called me, and I kind of like hung up on him because he was popping it. And he was like, "I'm coming to see you." I was like, "I'll be over there." And I didn't really believe that he could ever disrespect me and bring some other people to come hurt me. Wow. I couldn't believe that. It'd be like me telling somebody to punch my uncle in the face. You know what I mean? If I got a problem with my uncle, then I just gotta fight my uncle. But I ain't gonna never have no stranger, no one I don't know do that. And I just couldn't believe, because he was like, yo, punch him in his face. And I was like, I couldn't believe it. You know? So, you know, a good thing, it's good that nothing happened because
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not gonna say I'm the toughest guy in the world. Like regardless to whether I would have lost that day or not, eventually I feel like I would have won. So I felt like it wouldn't be good to jeopardize a bunch of people's lives for no reason. You know, like again, a real friend is never gonna send someone else to put themselves in danger. You know, you gonna put yourself in danger before the people you care about. So I was just like, you know, but either way, it wasn't nothing that we was all celebrating. It was like that was back. It was like we can't be the unit that we once was. Like I can't look at my brotherhood the same.
See, back then, Jim Jones was running with people when he ran up on Dame. And Dame said something that never left me. He basically said, if you got a problem with me, let it be me and you. Just two men handling their issue. That moment told me everything I needed to know. Not about who was right, but about who was comfortable standing alone. And here's the part that makes this uncomfortable. Because Jim Jones has spent years talking like a solo act. But when you look back, you see a lot of loudness and very little isolation. And again, that ain't no diss. That's just an observation. People confuse being vocal with being solid. They are not the same thing. Now, fast forward to today. Freaky Zeke posts that old clip, and Camron, of all people, is the one who reacts. This is important because Cam and Dame ain't been cool lately. They've had real issues, real falling out. But even Cam looked at that moment and said, yeah, Dame stood up on that. That's not alliance, that's respect. And respect hit different when it comes from somebody who don't owe you that. Cam ain't had to say a word, but he did. And when he did, it reopened the conversation people thought was closed. Now, let's talk about the most disrespectful part of all of this. Jim Jones trying to act like Damedash was nothing. That's where you lost me, because history is history, whether you like somebody or not. Damedash was running a $100 million company when Jim Jones didn't have $1 million to his name. That's not shade, that's the timeline. Dame was in rooms with Jay-Z, Puff, Steve Stout, when most rappers didn't even understand the business yet. You don't get to erase that just because you fell out. And this is where the whole thing comes together for me. If you don't respect the OG in real life, life has a way of embarrassing you when you least expect it. Not through violence, through memory. And memory is undefeated. This is why that clip hit different in 2026. People are tired of loud characters who don't match their narrative. Now, this is where the conversation gets real uncomfortable. Because when you talk about Jim Jones, you ain't talking about just one incident. You're talking about a pattern that's been hiding in plain sight. And patterns don't lie. People lie about patterns. Every few years is a new beef, a new issue, a new falling out. But the energy is always the same. Loud talk, heavy words, very little resolution. And here's what I mean by that. Jim is always talking about who's tough, who ain't outside, who wasn't back in the day. But when you trace the timeline, you don't see many moments where he stood by himself. You see moments where he stood with people. That's the difference. And again, this ain't about fighting. This is about consistency between image and action. Because hip hop, more than any other culture, can smell inconsistency a mile away. You can't keep saying I'm like that, and every story got an asterisk. Now, let's talk about why the Damedash moment hit so hard for people. Dame didn't need the crowd. He simply said, if it's a problem, let it be me and you. That's it. And that moment destroyed a lot of narratives without throwing a punch. That's why it aged the way it did. See, back then, people wasn't all on social media the way they are now. Now they can rewatch it, pause it, rewind it. And what people see now is not fear. It's hesitation. And hesitation don't mix well with a tough guy brand. This is why the internet didn't need commentary. All it needed was the footage. Now, let's talk about Cam for a second. Because Cam is smarter than people think. Cam don't move emotionally. He moves strategically. And when he co-signed Dame in that moment, it was not about friendship. It was about code. Cam looked at that situation and said, yeah, that's how a man is supposed to act. And that speaks volumes coming from a man who has zero obligation to praise Dame. This is why the enemy of my enemy becomes my ally, even temporary. Not because you like them, but because you respect the line they stood. Now, here's where Jim Jones keeps losing the room. The disrespect for history. You can have issues with Damedash. Plenty of people do. But you don't get to erase what he represented in the early 90s and the 2000s. You don't get to act like he was just some guy when he was shaping the modern music executive. Before streaming, before independent talk was popular. Dame was doing that in real time, with real money, with real consequences. And when you try to belittle that, it makes you look smaller, not stronger. This is why people are starting to say, Jim talk too much for somebody who never closes the loop. Every beef ends in a post, a meme, or a joke. But never a moment where the talk matches the walk. And people notice that now more than ever. Because we're in an era where image is documented. You can't outrun footage. You can't outshout receipts. And that's why this old clip will keep coming back. It's not about violence. It's about integrity. It's about standing on what you say when the camera ain't your ally. Listen, none of this is really about Jim Jones. And it really ain't about Damedash. This is about what happens when image outruns character. When the performance becomes more important than the person. Hip hop used to check that. The streets used to check that. Now the camera checks it, it, and the internet never forgets. You can talk tough for 20 years. All it takes is one moment where you don't stand alone, and that moment becomes your shadow. Dame didn't win because he was louder. He won because he was clear. Clear about where he stood, clear about what he would do, and more importantly, clear about what he would not do. And that's why people who don't even like Dame respect that moment. Respect is not about how much noise you make. Respect is about how you move when the room get quiet. Jim Jones' problem is not that he talks tough. It's that he talks tough without ever closing the story. And at some point, people stop arguing with you. They just stop believing you. And that's the real L. Not losing a fight, not losing a beef, losing credibility with the very culture you keep trying to impress. This is why Camron's silent approval hit harder than any words. Because he didn't pick sides, he picked principle. And principle always outlives personality. So if it's a lesson here for anybody watching this, it's simple. Don't build a brand you can't defend by yourself. Don't take a life you're not prepared to stand in. And don't ever confuse loudness with strength. And when it does, it don't ask questions. It just replays the tape. But hey, that's just my opinion. What's yours? Like, comment, subscribe. Established Rich. I'll be back with another one. Peace.